how can I see men more positively?
Oh, man. Tell me more about that. I think men are pretty great. But
Yeah.
I'm kind of biased too, though. So
This is true. Well, I have been married for the past 7 years. My husband and I have been together for 10 almost. We've got 2 little boys, a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and we want to raise them to be good, godly men. But neither one of us really have had very strong male influences in our life. My dad is still around, but he is not like emotionally there. And when I was younger, he had made some kind of comment when we were on vacation. I think I have Asperger's. I was like, okay, all right. And that was that. He's a brilliant man, just not emotionally there. My husband's dad died right before we got married. And we don't have very many people in our lives that we can look up to. So I'm trying to see how to view men more positively when the ones around me are just either wimpy or lost puppies or harsh. It's hard to see men more positively or even look out for people that we can look up to, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, totally. Are you married to a good man?
He is. He's a very good man.
So do you not look at him favorably?
I wouldn't say unfavorably, but I don't think he's an amazing provider. And a lot of that's because, what he wants in life. We're both involved in ministry, so we know that, like, financially, things weren't always going to be amazing. But it's like he'll say he's going to do something, and then it falls through. Like, he's been looking at other jobs, but he won't apply for them, and he says that he will. Or it's just the follow-through is not really there.
So,
but otherwise,
well, let me say, sometimes overgeneralizations are true. They just are. Sometimes overgeneralizations, stereotypes, whatever you want to call it, they protect us from having to deal with the reality in our own house or in our own neighborhood or in our own families. And so I guess what I would tell you is there are men who are idiots.
Yes.
And there are millions and millions of men who grind every single day to do the best they can with the tools they got.
Yeah.
Right? And so what I hear is 2 different things. Number one, so let's pretend your dad does have, he's high functioning autistic. You said he's brilliant.
He is.
You said he was a provider. So, but he wasn't as emotionally available as you would have liked him to be.
Right.
So what I'm not going to do as an adult with my own kids is choose to hold one of my parents responsible for a potential special need.
Right.
Right. Or when it comes to, I don't know, a dad passing away. I'm not going to assume negative about that guy. He died, right?
Right.
And then I've got to, it's easy to go, oh, man, I don't respect him. I don't like him, whatever. It's harder to say, my husband is not a person of character.
Right.
That's a much harder thing to say. It's harder to say, to dig into the nuance of my dad, which is he was really good at some things and awful at some other things. Both are true. Right? So it sounds like you got 2 things going on. One, you don't like the situation you don't like the life that you're living. Or you might like parts of it, but you thought it was going to feel different. And so it's easy to point your finger out at the world and I'm just going to find this group. The other side of that is you got to be really radically honest with your husband or about your feelings and the reality that you find yourself with the man you married. Tell me about him.
He is an amazing dad.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm getting emotional.
That's okay. Well, take a breath. I said a lot to you. Am I out to lunch?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't think you're out to lunch. I think you're on the right track. it's just like you had mentioned. I thought things were going to look differently. I thought our boys were going to have grandfathers to look up to and have pillars of strength and integrity to look up to. And my husband does an amazing job doing that. But there's some things that he won't be able to teach them, which sounds silly, but
like what?
Just how to build something, or I mean, it seems really silly, but I want them to know how to be well-rounded individuals and be able to fix a tractor, as ridiculous as it sounds, or fix something electrical. And my husband, love him to death, and he's very smart, but not handy, I guess would be the word.
Okay. So the grief that you're putting out into the world is yours.
Yeah.
And the grief, you keep telling yourself a story. And that story is, he's so amazing, he's so amazing, he's so amazing. Yet at the same time, you're telling yourself another story, which is, he will never teach my boys to be the men I want them to be.
Right.
And those two stories can't compete.
Right.
You're making yourself bananas, right? Like you're trying to spin the record both directions, and it just sounds like noise.
So do I lean more into this is what he can do for them? They're going to be amazing because he can do this.
Well, I just reject that he can't.
Okay.
The first time I ever went deer hunting I was in my 30s, and it's because my father-in-law berated me into it. And it's become my singular obsessive passion over the last 15 years. I watched my dad fix stuff growing up because we had no money. He had to.
Yeah.
And this weekend, as I was building garden beds by myself, I grew up in the suburbs, dude, outside of a major city. As I was building garden beds for our property outside of town in the woods, this weekend, I was thinking, like I've come a long way. And by the way, I had my headphones on and I was listening to an audiobook of a nerdy science book about marriage. Yeah. So both things are true. You've told yourself a story that your husband can't. And that's easier than dealing with the truth is that he won't.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you respect him.
Yeah, if I'm honest, sometimes I do struggle with that.
Okay, tell me about that. Don't put this onto the boys. The boys can learn whatever you want to sign them up for.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Like I mentioned earlier, just the follow through on things. I feel like I was talking to him about it this last weekend. Like I feel like I've been let down in a lot of different ways.
Be specific about a lot of different ways. That feeling becomes a lot. Be specific. Are you frustrated with your financial situation? Are you frustrated with you thought you wanted to do ministry and live in rural Mississippi and you hate it there? Did you think he was going to be a guy who exercised, knew how to fix? Like, did you think men just knew how to do some stuff and he doesn't know how to do that stuff? Like, what? Be specific.
So, for instance, he's been looking at different jobs, and he says he's been looking and looking and looking, but he's never actually created a profile on Indeed or looked and actually applied to anything. He's just word of mouth. Or like for my birthday years ago, I had told him that I wanted to build cabinets above our washer and dryer, and he said it was going to happen. He was going to do it. He promised it's going to happen, and it's been 3 or 4 years that hasn't happened.
Okay.
Just things like that with the follow through just isn't there, and I don't want to be promised something if you're not going to be able to follow through.
What's a deeper thing? This isn't about cabinets. This is not about him looking for a job. It's even deeper than that. Be totally honest. What is it?
I guess I feel like my dad let me down.
Okay.
Like maybe on one hand I could count the amount of times he told me he loved me or he was proud of me.
Okay.
Including my wedding. I mean, I've seen the marriage that my parents have, and it's lasted, but it's not been wonderful.
What are you doing on a day-to-day basis to contribute to that not being the same way? Because I hear somebody who's just looking around and saying, all of my life is happening to me. Where are you taking control and autonomy and running with it?
So, like when backstory, I struggled with depression, so I started going to counseling, and I was put on some Zoloft after I had my last kid because I had postpartum.
Okay.
And I've been working through a lot of that stuff, and I've been working out, eating better. I've been trying to take care of my mental health because I know that I can't take care of anybody else.
Okay.
I can only focus on me.
Can I tell you that I'm really proud of you for that?
Thank you.
It's good. It's awesome.
Thank you.
And underneath all of that, you sound to me profoundly lonely in rural Mississippi.
Yeah.
Tell me about some girlfriends that you have that you go hang out with, you have coffee with, that you go have beers with, that you just act silly with.
My coworker is a really good friend. She's probably 30 years older than me, but we're crazy people at work. And it's even funnier because we work with intellectual disabled adults, so they get a kick out of it. But every day at work is hilarious.
But that's work.
We really enjoy it.
Do y'all hang out outside of work?
Rarely.
Okay.
Rarely.
So I want that to be on your radar. Okay. I'm trying to think of things that you can control. Here's the bigger picture. You're on a bullet train to recreate the marriage that you experienced in your house.
Yeah.
And it's because you've told yourself stories about your husband. And then you hold him accountable for those stories. At the same time, and I don't say this lightly, he is a man who is currently lacking in integrity. And if you don't own that, then you make yourself bananas when you're like, he's so great, he's so wonderful. And I hate where we live. We tried this life and I don't like it. We don't have enough money for basic stuff. And it sounds like the old pictures and words thing. You have a very clear picture of what, quote unquote, looking for a job looks like. He evidently does too, and those pictures don't align. So he can go have a bunch of cups of coffee and have some lunches with some guys and talk about jobs, and you come home and you're just sobbing that your husband's a loser because he won't apply for a job, and he's thinking, I tried. I'm trying. Or you have pictures of us not being in Mississippi anymore, and he's trying to find a job that will pay bills in rural Mississippi.
Yeah.
And so what I think you need is to back all the way out. Number one, let go of the all men are bad. They're not. Most men are doing the best they can. They have limited tools, and the world shifted on them.
Yeah.
Okay? And I don't know anybody that if they could go back and coach their dad to do different things wouldn't have a long list of things they could coach their dads on. And it breaks my heart for you that call's never going to come that he's proud of you. It's not going to come. And I think you got to grieve that and write him a letter. Don't send it to him, but write it. Get that stuff out of your body. Okay?
Yeah.
Because it just loops and loops and loops and loops and loops. And you're taking small baby steps, which I love to see, of making, like, being well inside your own head, inside your own heart, inside your own house. You're taking action steps, which is amazing. Exercising, going to see a counselor. I want you to start hanging out with friends outside of work.
Okay.
But I want you and your husband to go sit down and have a honest to goodness conversation that is you telling him, I don't like our life. And the more specific you can be, the better. Dollar amount, geographic location, career trajectory. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because those are the realities I think y'all are working around. Y'all are just looping and looping around those, and you're not being direct about them. But here's the bigger thing: his wife is drowning inside of y'all's house, and you have to be honest. Because I think you're drowning, and he's looking at you waving your arms in the ocean, and thinks you're waving at him. I don't think he realizes how bad it is. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fair.
The greatest gift you can give him right now is honesty.
Yeah.
Sometimes when we sit down with our spouses and we make these plans, they come with these, but we have to live here. And you have this degree, so we have to do this. And I think we're in a season in the world that's changing so fast. The world we live in right now will be so different 5 years from now. And in many ways, that terrifies me because I don't have a roadmap for it. I don't like living without a roadmap. But y'all have to sit down and take your arm and wipe off everything. You have family land. So what? You have a degree in whatever. So what? You don't know how to do a certain thing or certain things right now, but you can learn them. Shoot, I don't mind telling you. I just asked Andrew, who's currently running the video equipment right now, if this summer he can give me and my son welding lessons. Because they left the welding class. I just asked him the other day to create a class for me and my son, and to give me a list of things I need to buy so I can be a welder. And I'm old. I'm an old man. I'm not an old man, but I'm getting there. So this idea that you can't learn, if you get a master's degree in theology and wrestle with those abstract ideas, then for sure you can learn how to do some of these other things, but you gotta want to do it. And I want you to have a picture. I want my boys, when they walk across the graduation stage at the age of 18, to know how to do these things. That's actually a thing I went and did. You and your husband need to go through John Tyson's book, The Intentional Father. It is a faith-based book, so if you're not a faith-based person, I think the book is still extraordinary. But if you are people of faith, it's the best fathering book I've read. But it gives a map for how your kids got to learn how to do a whole bunch of stuff, especially in the upcoming world they got. They got to learn how to raise chickens, and they got to learn how to dodge a punch, and they got to learn how to code or whatever, deal with AI. They got to do all of that stuff. It's a new world, new planet. But instead of just every day being like, well, they can't do this, they're never going to be able to do that. Let's go all the way out to the end, to the finish line, and reverse engineer it. When they're 18, they walk across stage. I want them to know how to do these things. Husband, I want you to know how to do some of these things. It would make me as your wife feel safer if you knew how to do some of these things. And some of those things you're not going to know how to do. You have to learn how to do it. You have to learn how to do it. One of the most humbling, and it's turned into my favorite part of my life, is I know how to do a couple of things pretty good. There's a whole bunch of stuff I don't know how to do. And so I love surrounding myself with other men and women who can teach me how to do new things. It's awesome. It's just being a lifelong learner. That's one thing he should have learned in grad school. But all of this starts with you at home being very specific about, I don't like the world we're creating, even though we're surrounded by cool stuff, right? I don't want to mistake my happiness for blessings, as the old Caedmon's Call says. I don't want to just continue to put along like this. So let's be honest and let's be specific. And right now your husband's not doing what he says he's doing, and you got to call him out on the carpet on that because you love him. And hopefully he's a person of character and he hears it. And then he begins taking action steps. Whew. Thanks for the call, Kate. I'm really grateful for you.